BodyWork. It's Michael Rogers. Welcome to BodyWork Boxing. Man, I just wanted to do a live, man, and let everybody know that I'm still out here, man. I'm doing a live, man. I'm just, as much as I create and have to look up things and find information, sometimes I got to take a step back and look and examine boxing, man. I got to go around the different channels and kind of get a pulse of what the people saying and what's going on. And it's a weird place. I think boxing is in a positive place. But I think just like everything else that starts off real pure, I think that I know that the conversation around boxing is really it's jacked up, man. We love the gossip and the juicy stuff more so than the important stuff, man. We say we want fights, but I did a video earlier that I dropped, and I thought it'd be good to play this and allow people to come on to see that I am live. So if it's something that you got on your chest, you feel some kind of way, I don't uncontrollably just mute anybody over here. You can have the floor. You got a bone to pick, you can pick it. You know what I'm saying? But I just thought I would play this. Welcome back. I just want to talk to y'all. I want to talk to the people who take time out to listen to the content and consume the content, digest the content, take something away from it. One of the biggest aims of my channel is to at least be thought-provoking, and try to bring some real life stuff into boxing dialogue. But my biggest focus is what happens inside the ring. And recently I was watching that new comedy special by Trevor Noah. Clever, funny dude, man. He said something. And the way he put it, it was like, I couldn't agree more. But he said, I'll be honest, I don't think that it's a real issue. I feel like it's one of those manufactured issues that often happens in America. Gets people riled up, gets them fired up, and fighting about something that was never an issue to begin with. Politicians tricking Americans into fighting about issues that were never an issue to begin with. So you don't pay attention to the issues at hand that are important. And I was like, Eureka. That's how I feel when it comes to, boxing talk now. I think that, much like the behind the scenes stuff, they get you riled up for a lot of things entertainment wise, is the focal point. It's like the trash talk has become the focal point more so than what's actually going on in the ring. And there are little splinters in the conversation that, I find myself listening a lot. I do chime in about the real. And sometimes, maybe somebody else is on that wavelength of thinking, and we can really get somewhere as far as what boxing fans really want. But I remind you all that right now, I think we're doing a lot of master debating about things that aren't really an issue to begin with. But we spend so much time, bickering over that, we're not really paying attention to what's really going on in the sport. And I think that it's a time where people have been saying it. I know on my channel I've been saying it. You really can't talk boxing responsibly unless you're going to address all facets of boxing. I mean, you're going to have to consider the business aspect of boxing. You got to consider that. You have to consider the politics of promotional companies. You have to consider that. You can't omit that and then want to introduce it, in your argument. Because, man, there's some tricky people out here, man, with these words, man. And when it comes down to what they're really trying to do with it, I think a lot of people want to be sovereign in boxing talk. They don't really want to push the sport forward. They just want to be sovereign, where they know everything and they're the ultimate say, and can't nobody tell them anything. Can't nobody, you can be respectful as you want to be. You can be as direct as you want to be. You can be as blunt as you want to be. But if they don't agree, it's over for you. We got to get somewhere in the sport. And in the sport, man, I think if, just like the history books, when we know that there's an alternative history in the history books, every year, annually, we celebrate the same thing. And we know the real history, but, this is, the place where we're in, and this is what's going on, and, you're a part of it whether you like it or not. But we know the real history. But when it comes down time to lay down an outline for a real history, the people who want to lay out the real outline are too busy bickering about minutia to get the whole thing accomplished. And I think if at the end of the day we say, man, we just want to see the fights, it's okay. That's okay, because we all want to. We all want to. But saying something 1,000 times, explaining something 1,000 times, it's like you're catering to somebody. You're catering to a lot of casuals, because if you've been paying attention, you already know what's going on in the sport. You already know what's up. You already know that there's a business aspect to this sport. You already know that certain things don't happen in this sport. So you're really only playing on the minds of those who are asleep, or those who are taking a nap once again, because some of us take a nap and then we wake up and then we take a nap, and it's a cycle. But that's what you're catering to in these boxing talks. So I think if we want to push the sport forward and we want to go somewhere with the sport, the conversation around the sport got to change. The conversation around the sport got to change. You shouldn't be triggered if somebody is saying that a champion from a whole nother country might be number one pound for pound. When you look at the achievements and the accomplishments, they have an argument. It shouldn't trigger you that should come up. What it should do is make you want to say, you know what, we have too many supreme athletes over here for that to even be a conversation. Not just diminish that fighter, that foreign fighter. It shouldn't trigger you. But I see that a lot of us just want to be sovereign. A lot of us just want to sound right, and as long as we get the credit and the glory, because I also learned that people only acknowledge the truth depending on who tells it. And you know what I'm talking about. When you done told somebody something 1,000 times, and because the pastor said it, or Maury Povich said it, or, the best boxing podcast on earth said it, now it's stamped and solidified. Stop that. And I'm sure you've lost friends because you've tried to tell your friend, your brother, your uncle, your cousin, your co-worker something, and they just shunned you off. They didn't listen to you. They didn't respect it. And then all of a sudden, they come back to you Say, oh man, on such and such, they said this. You look at them different. Friendships can be lost like that. Relationships can be lost like that. And I think that right now we're splintered. We're so splintered in the boxing conversation and so thrilled by the juicy gossip. We're not really paying attention to it, acknowledging what's going on inside the ring. Because 99% of the time, boxers aren't fighting. But even when they do fight, it's spent on, oh well, this was a rehydration, or this was or that was, depending on what side of the politic fence you're on, is going to be the side that you're going to be on for that day. Or depending on who you're debating, that can fly today, but you can deny that tomorrow and say, oh yeah, that was just for that debate. You haven't debunked this. It's like, come on, man. We're not even talking about boxing no more, for real, for real. We're really not. We're talking about boxing politics. So I'm thinking we need to reflect on this. Look at history. Let some time go by. Because man, it's a lot of people flip flopping, man. I'm doing my little year in review and I'm looking back all the fights and what people were saying and what side of fences people were on. There's been a whole lot of flip flopping out of here, man. And now the loudest, most popular voices is getting all the credit for all of these things when it's like, man, you flip flop like a fish. And when it comes down to getting your lunch taken, getting your cornbread taken, you the loudest, biggest one in the mess hall with your chest out, but you don't really want it. You wanna be sovereign, or you wanna be first. Or you want everybody to agree. I always caution y'all about the big broad highway versus the narrow winding stairs. How many of y'all taking the stairs, man? Like not microwaving your research, not piggybacking your research. A lot of people be taking and getting stuff and using stuff and saying stuff and don't even give the originator, the creator, credit. Using people terminology. This channel is based on boxing. For real, for real. What's actually going to happen? What can happen? How good was the person? You know, we talk about the X's and O's. We use CompuBox. We do use BoxRec. It's information. It's data. Anybody out here talking about, you know, this and discounting information and data at any point in time are lying to you in your face. That's what it's there for. And to keep it a buck, when you are debating and this and that, you should be able to say, hey, hold on, stop, Paul, let's look at this. Let's analyze this. Let's Google this. But now you put somebody in that hot seat, they're gonna mute you and get you up out of there because they don't want to be disproven. They gotta be sovereign and reign supreme. Some of the most mature individuals online in boxing talks are still doing your mama jokes, still using the B word. You know what I'm saying? So I believe that when it comes down to boxing talk, we just gotta be 100, man, and say, man, if we really want the fights as fans, we'll be responsible with the dialogue that's gonna get us to how the fights can happen. Because I was laying out something saying, oh man, if it is really true that Amazon Prime, you know, gotta deal with PBC, and then I hear out of Bob Arum, I seen the video with Bob Arum saying, oh yeah, it can work because of their experience with Japanese boxing and their experience from that. He was like, as long as Al don't make everything a pay-per-view, it can really work, because he was saying it should be like every time or every other time, but it should still be free fights. And he said the best fights were free, but the ones that, you know, needed money, you know, they needed money, but they were great fights. But he said it could work. Bob was saying it could work, and he see the endeavors. I was like, wow, this is what boxing fans really want. But you bring that up in the conversation right now, and that's like taboo. I'm like, so do we really want to see the fights? Or do we really just want to just piggyback and say I was right about this guy and I guess whatever you mount this fighter for, you know, ever and ever and ever? Because that's not even a hot topic right now. I don't know how that's not the hottest topic in the streets. That means that we might get people from ESPN and people from PBC. I mean, people from Top Rank and PBC being able to go onto Amazon and get it on. Easy. With everything mapped out, everybody getting paid. That's a real possibility. And nobody's talking about it. Why? Because there's more benefit to actually say you knew this fact more, or you got a relationship, or at that one time this boxer left his jock strap, you know what I'm saying, in your closet. You got a point. We don't really want to see these fights. That's what I'm saying. When you listen to about 95% of this going around boxing, it's so trivial. It's so one day you're right, tomorrow you're absolutely wrong. That it don't make any sense. So I'm thinking, man, let's be responsible. Let's be optimistic. And if we start finding more things that we agree about the sport, if we focus it on more, okay, what do we agree on? Okay, cool. Because I don't care if you Muslim, I don't care if you Christian, I don't care if you Catholic, I don't care if you Buddhist, Mormon. It don't matter to me. You're going to get hungry, you're going to get thirsty, you're going to need a place to live, and you're going to get horny. Those things I know to be true, regardless who you are. You can believe what you want. That don't have anything to do with boxing. You're going to have to fight. You're going to have to show. And B-Hop said it best. He said, boxing will cause you a bluff. These conversations are calling our bluff right now, because I don't really think we want to see the fights. If we did, we'd be more responsible with the conversation. We'll consider the business of boxing, and we'll work towards to find ways to link up together, not argue and debate, but link up together and make our power as a real voice, giving a real pulse of what we want. We could get them easier. You know what I'm saying? It's like they done made the Tower of Babel, and so we done all scattered in this. Oh, you got to be this second, that second. If you don't like this fighter, then that. I can't do this. It's too much. Especially if all you really want to do at the end of the day is see the best fights. I think it should reflect in our boxing conversation. But who am I? Thanks for tuning in here at BodyWork Boxing. But we don't take things for face value. We do that body work. So, what do you think? You know what I'm saying? What do you think? We in a time right now where, man, it was a lot of people. It was a lot of people, man, that was on the other side of a lot of fences earlier this year, man. We look back at the end of the year, and what do we have? You know what I'm saying? We got fence riders that then came all the way over to the other side of the fence. We got other people jockeying for this aspect of the jock strap. This person want to be on the buttock area. This person want to be right on the crotch. It's like, and my biggest pet peeve, man, when I'm talking about boxing, man, is that people who claim that they know boxing, but they always omit boxing business sense when they want to make their point. Like, for example, where are all these people who, when Tank and Ryan was fighting, they would say, oh, man, you know, Tank ducked, Ryan ducked Tank, he don't want none, and that's what he's supposed to be the mandatory. We ain't never seen in the history of boxing where mandatory didn't want to fight the champion. It's like, stop it. We've seen plenty of cases where somebody might have worked up that tree, and for whatever reason, you know what I'm saying, they don't want to pull that trigger. For whatever reason. That's that man's career. That's not really any of our business. But I remember at that point in time, man, I was one of the loudest voices saying, man, come on, how is this an exhibition when y'all wanted, y'all were practically begging Ryan to fight Devin at one point in time. So we fast forward to now where everybody's ignoring the fact that they were calling that an exhibition and he was no good, and that was a cherry pick and all this. And then even if you explore the conversation with the other option, which would be Mario Barrios, it's like that's in direct conflict. You got Abdul Wahid missing the top 10 pound for pound list according to the zone because of the level of competition. But yet, the number 4 on that pound for pound list in Devin Haney is getting ready to fight somebody who Tank stopped in Tank's last fight. Like, and people are just glossing over now. Ryan has all this support, and some of us are not complaining because some of us would have took the Devin and Ryan fight. Absolutely would have took that fight. And me personally, I give Devin credit. I give Devin credit for JoJo Diaz, even though I do make arguments against it sometimes and poke holes because of the level of competition when they try to make it seem like this guy's resume is so much more than everybody else. I give him credit for JoJo Diaz. I give him credit for George Kambosos because of who he was at the time. He upset the apple cart by beating T.O. And I give him credit for Regis Prograis. I give Devin full credit for those fights. And I really give him credit for that Regis Prograis fight because Regis Prograis, regardless of what everybody want to say, all these Monday morning quarterbacks, hindsight is 20/20 looking at it. You know what I'm saying? All of these people were up there when Regis was climbing his way back up to the top after the loss to Josh Taylor. I had Josh Taylor winning. There's a lot of people that argue about that, but it was an ugly fight. Josh Taylor said all the time his face looked like hamburger meat, and I highly respect Josh Taylor for what he was able to do. It almost looked like that man got old overnight. Inactivity is a killer, and we've seen it. He slid by, against the Catterall, and I thought Catterall actually won that fight. You know what I'm saying? Is it karma? Is it life balancing itself? Is it the boxing gods restoring some order? Maybe. But I give him credit for those fights. But when Regis climbed his way back up to the top, Regis was a certified killer. There were a lot of people that actually, I'm not gonna say duck Regis, but they weren't going up and running up and ringing the doorbell for a fight. They wasn't pen paling him. They wasn't, they wasn't really going at him, really wanting that smoke. And so now Devin that's the first time I could say he put on a masterclass performance. The only thing he didn't follow through on was that he said he was going to make Regis look like a meme. Now, he knocked him down. I give him credit for that because it's been a while since he had knocked somebody down. So I give him full credit for Regis. He does not check off any of the blocks, however, of the people that I wanted him to fight that were, where he didn't have all the advantages: height, reach, size, age. That's the only thing. Once he checked that off, now Ryan would fit the criteria. Ryan would be another check on the block. But I just find it odd how Ryan is getting all this support now. Everybody saying, look, man, we got to, and everybody are changing their ways and flip-flopping, but this is what we do, man. This is what we do every time. We're not complaining about the fight. We're not complaining the fact that, because some of us do want to see Devin and Ryan get it on. We're not even complaining about that. As a boxing fan, it's like, okay, cool. Now we get to see who's who, because I think Ryan, he need to be pushed into a corner before he really, it's like that guy that you keep picking on. He got to be put in that corner before he really show. And I think that, much like the experience that Devin got with Loma, even though he got that decision win, I think that the experience that Ryan got in the ring with Tank, and then that, I heard somebody call it something earlier. It wasn't a Philly shell. They called it something else. And I was laughing, but, he did that. Then he showed some other things where he can move around, use his feet. He can be opportunistic. He can pick and pop. He got a bullwhip of a left hook. Everybody knows that he got a nice uppercut. He has a nice, sharp, crispy jab. I think his biggest problem was figuring out whether or not he really wanted to be a boxer or he wanted to use his stardom to get more bread. But the fact that he's actually willing to take this fight, he's being vocal about this fight, there's some hardcore boxing fans that are like, okay, cool. We're okay with the fight taking place. What we're not okay is everybody who actually changed now, like changed their, I guess we got a whole lot of chameleons out here. A lot of people done changed their complexions on this whole thing, and it's like, why did Abdul Wahid catch all the flack that he caught when he was fighting Ryan Garcia? Why is all the energy changing? Why is all this gold? Why are all these goalposts being moved? And why is it being made to seem like Tank is the person, or Abdul Wahid is the person where all the onus lies in them actually make these fights? Yes, people say he's the A side. Yes, people say he's the cash cow. But it's real crazy how, let me jog y'all memory real quick. And I'm going to try not to be long, but this is what I want to say about trying to police up conversations and stop having amnesia. Because I remember when there was a lot of people online basically saying that Bob Arum, before Bud actually re-signed, when Bud actually re-signed with Bob Arum, they would sit up here and they'll tell you, they would lecture you every day, all day, about how, oh man, y'all don't be peeping to play what Bob Arum doing. Y'all don't see what Bob Arum doing. He knew that once he got a marquee fighter like Bud, he took that back to the network and got that ESPN deal. They'll tell you that. So he was a bargaining chip for an endeavor. They'll tell you that. Go back in the interview. They'll tell you that he was the bargaining chip and he was what was used, because in that same story, they'll turn around and tell you that, yeah, he would turn around and say that he was losing a lot of money on Bud, but that at the same time, he was putting a lot of his interest in Lomachenko and in Tyson Fury at the time. Do your homework, do your research. And I find it odd that we can understand business so well when it came down to what Bob was using with his endeavors with ESPN to get that big deal that they got. Where they was actually, you know what I'm saying, to, you know, do their thing on ESPN. It's real odd how we can point out in a business sense, in a business manner, how that makes sense and all the implications of those decisions that Bob was making and how he used Bud signing with him as leverage in that meeting, in that room for that deal. Yet nobody wants to consider the fact that PBC is making a big change. Nobody wants to consider that the man was under house arrest with all these laws where he can't move and do this, and people saying, "No, man, he can train wherever." It's like, yes, but you're looking at it from a perspective of one of these fans that just want, like, almost like back in the day when they watched the Gladiators, who just want their pound of flesh. You're not looking at the reasonable aspect of everything. It's like, would you want to prepare for a fight with something around your ankle, or not being able to go to an environment where you found like you were comfortable? We already know that a rose can grow from concrete. And that's what he did. He grew from the concrete and he came up out of Baltimore. But at the same time, if he moved and he has a residence somewhere else and he wants to live there, he is the one that's getting punched in the head for a living. People fail to forget that. Not to mention, you don't think that Tank was a name. I don't know. I don't have no strong confirmation, but I would reason that when you sit down, I would reason that whenever people over there at Prime sat down with Al, they had a meeting. And I would have to reason he would have to show some numbers, and he would have to use some of his bargaining chips, which are the fighters that he managed, to actually leverage a deal. Well, who's one of the biggest fighters, if not the biggest fighter up and coming as far as numbers and mass appeal? Who's the biggest fighter they have on their roster? We can barely count Canelo because he just came back. He did his little money grab. He coming over. He doing business. It's Gervonta Tank Davis. You don't think that Abdul Wahid? You don't think that Abdul was used, his name, his cachet, everything that he brings to the table wasn't part of the metrics that he did to leverage this deal? And then you're saying, oh man, why he don't want to go talk to this? It's like, but we don't want to look at the pure actions. One man left ESPN Top Rank. One man left ESPN the Top Rank and went back to DAZN. He's with DAZN. And I say this all the time. It is very, very rare. And I hope somebody will find it, but this would be a needle in a haystack, and this would be the exception, but not the rule. But it's very, very rare that you win a title under the banner of somebody and they let you walk out the door with the title. Think about what Shakur got going on. The fact that he just won that title, he keeps saying he got 2024 is up for him. Yeah, because he wasn't going to be able to win that title against De Los Santos and just walk out the door. Now,
He's going to have another fight because normally, typically, that's what happens when you win a title with a promotional company. You're stuck with them. How is the onus on Abdul Wahid? How is the onus lying there? The onus can't lie there because Shakur tied up because he just won a belt and he's on Top Rank. Even though there is hope with Bob, basically saying that Amazon Prime and their business dealings with your Japanese boxing, the foundation is already laid. They already know the schematics. They already know the rules. So there might be a potential case where fighters from Top Rank and fighters from PBC can get it on Amazon Prime. And nobody's talking about it. Yet they want to put all the onus on Wahid. How? From a business logical state, then with the thing that Devin is doing, it's like, yeah, he done moved up. I'm happy that he moved up out of that way. I'm glad that there's conversations with Richardson Hitchens, Africa, the one I call Rain Man. It's good news to actually hear him say that Tank said he would fight him at 140 with nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because me personally, it's like I'll take it however the fight comes and however the paperwork is drawn up and they sign those dotted lines, I'm going to take that fight, period. But I'm one of the ones that say, I don't want no excuse. Tank, let that man get up to 170 pounds. In about the 5th round, knock his ass out. Let him get up. Let him be as big and swole as he wants. Let him think that size and all that, that's what's going to be the play and all this. Let him, man, he could be like a deer tick. Full as a deer tick. Let him get as hydrated and ballooned up. We already know that Tank said this pillow-fisted middleweight, he rehydrates the middleweight and can't give his opponent a nosebleed. He said that a while ago. But it was all breaking news. And this is that he rehydrated 25, 26 pounds when it could be common. Some of the smaller fighters might get more. I heard people, I heard chitter-chatter about Bam and how he rehydrates and this and that. I hear it all. I try to be the pulse. I try to grab and say, oh, man, they got a good point there. Oh, man, they cooking over there. They doing it. I don't know. They on some other stuff over there. That's what I do. But it's real odd how we like to pick and choose and put onus on. And I'm not saying that there are no blemishes. I'm not saying that there aren't things from Wahid's camp or the direction over there that don't make sense. I do know that from a business perspective, he has obligations to the guy that manages him, which is Al. If it has to go through him. You know what I'm saying? And it seems to me that he's a pretty reasonable guy. I think his claim to fame was making the most black and brown fighters, the most millionaires out of them all. And to his credit, he's put on the best fights. People looked at him transitioning from Showtime, PBC transitioning from Showtime over to Amazon as a negative. We don't know if it's a negative. People don't like change, but the only thing constant in life is change. Well, we omit the business aspect of everything, and we just want to just stab. I hear some of the craziest, silliest, stupidest arguments, man. And it'll be a lot of people watching and listening. To my surprise, there'll be a lot of people watching and listening and paying, but it's really just the low level energy. Salute the Cookie Monster with that body work. Salute Cookie Monster. But I'm sitting up here thinking about it, man. I'm like, man, we really just want to argue. We really just want to, we want to be supreme. We want to be heard. We want confirmation that we're smart, that we're intelligent, that we know it all, that we know, yeah, and that's cool. There's a lot of talent out here on YouTube. The thing is, though, is it helping us get closer to the fights, or is it making us splinter? Because sometimes the loudest voices could be saying they could be taking us in a totally different direction. That's why I say, man, it got to be exhausting to be a fan of certain fighters, because as they change and as their direction change, you change. And it's like we don't look at who's standing still, who stood still. As far as I'm concerned, as far as I've been following, Abdul Wahid been with Al Heyman. He didn't move. Then you got this guy hopping from this promotion to that promotion to this promotion to that to this, and he gets all the credit. It should get to the point to where you should be able to illustrate a story and don't use names, And based on the story and the facts of the actions, you should be able to render a decision. It shouldn't matter because you got these 3 initials versus these 3 initials. It shouldn't matter who these people believe in. The business of boxing do matter. And I just love how people conveniently leave that out in a lot of these boxing conversations. Or they'll use it to their advantage when it's likely. Just like they'll use a quote from Bob when it's helpful. They'll use a quote from Eddie when it's helpful. Like, Eddie is the best man on the planet when it comes down to like DHP and stuff like that. But he's the worst man on the planet when it comes to AJ and Wilder. It's like, make up. I don't think it's 2 different Eddies out here. And I think that Eddie learned a lot. Eddie has grown. Eddie has done some good things in the sport. He has. I think he learned from the first time when Devin was there. I think he learned. That's why he went and got Regis. That was the perfect play. He went and got Africa as well. You know what I'm saying? Is he gonna let him off the leash? Is he gonna allow him to get in the ring with Devin Haney and get his shot, get his bite at the apple? Richardson Hitchens, he's been very vocal. He get a lot of backlash because he give a lot of insight to Shakur. He give a lot of insight to Tank. He's like a go-between because he's cool with both of them. He gets shunned for some of the things that he say, and it's like, man, that's what good friends are for. Good friends are the ones that tell you, hey, man, this De Los Santos, man, he's something. He's something, man. He got some pop. Like, he can hit. He got some skills. You know what I'm saying? This ain't no easy win. This is going to be a tough challenge. This ain't going to be, and then look, we saw what happened. The most recent reports is about a dude while he's weight, and him willing to, fight Devin at a certain weight. But because if Devin is locked into wanting and being vocal about wanting to fight Ryan Garcia, they say, oh man, he's doing that because Tank don't want to fight. Tank, he don't have anything to do with it. They say, oh, what is Devin supposed to wait around? Because in one breath, they'll say, what is he supposed to wait around? It's like, man, let's just police it up, man. Like, the actions, because I don't know how in the world Shakur done. Because I'm going to tell you this. Social media and all the bickering and all the back and forth that we've done over these past months and years, over these 3 fighters, Shakur, Tank, and Devin, out of all the bickering, the history books are going to show that Devin Haney got undisputed. He defended it once against Kambosos. He defended it once against Lomachenko, and then he went to 140. The history books are also going to read that Shakur Stevenson became Devin. He activated his mandatory, like everybody said. Why don't he just activate his mandatory? As soon as he do it, oh man, he want to go to the sanctioning body and petition. Well, something had to happen in order for when Lomachenko got elevated. Something had to happen paperwork-wise. Some kind of sanctioning body had, and I remember Mauricio Sulaiman said that when that whole judgment went down, he said it was a period of 2 weeks in which DHP could have petitioned Lomachenko to actually have a fight. You know what they did? They turned around and sped as fast as they can to the other direction, and they went, and I think that's when they grabbed that guy, Santiago. I think at the time, he was a 16-0. I think he was a Puerto Rican fighter. It looked real good on paper, and Santiago was good. In the first couple rounds, he was catching Devin with that straight right. You know what I'm saying? He was hitting him with that right. And then Devin figured him out, you know what I'm saying, stepped on the gas and just boxed his head off. You know what I'm saying? That's what happened. But they did that to stamp a defense on it. They're like, oh man, before they get to clamoring and do something crazy, let's stamp a defense on this. But it was a period of 2 weeks in which he could have still petitioned for it because it wasn't already locked in step that was going to happen. It wasn't the end all be on. There was nothing guaranteeing them. That's why people get mad at Tio saying, oh man, he think he's smart because he dipped out of that tournament. Devin stayed in the tournament. It was a noble thing for Devin to stay in the tournament, but it was very smart for Tio to get out of the tournament. Why? He wanted to go get a belt from Comey because at the time Lomachenko wasn't really looking at nobody. He had called out Tank and been saying Tank name. It was an attractive, popular name that was rising up in the sport, so he would use that to his convenience, knowing he was over there on top rank. Knowing that, yeah, he was calling his name. But at the time, Lomachenko was treating these guys, he was disrespecting Tio. He was saying, oh man, he's not, once Tio won that belt, once he spiked Richard Comey, Loma said, "Welcome to my club. Let's get it on." Loma wasn't even recognizing nobody that wasn't a champion or somebody that could be a notch on his belt at the time. So Devin wasn't even up for discussion. He had worked his way up, but he wasn't even up for discussion. But then when you bring up, well, why did the Javier Fortuna fight never happen? They'll say, "Oh man, remember he had a shoulder injury." I'm like, yeah, how convenient. And remember, this is supposed to be before Hector Garcia. Before Javier Fortuna and Jojo Diaz fought. Somehow Devin got out of that fight citing surgery. Never fought Fortuna. We don't know what we would have got. We still give him credit for Jojo Diaz, but we don't know what we would have got. We don't know. So my thing is this. We gotta be, man. We gotta, like, it's okay to be like, you know what? Back then I was tripping, man. Like now, I see everything that was laid out, because I remember being called public hater number one when I was outlining it. I was like, I'm not hating. I'm just documenting. We need contemporary historians. We don't need people stuck with. And I appreciate it. I'll go and listen all day. I'll just listen. I might not even comment. I'll just listen because I just love boxing. I'm infatuated. I go listen to the historians who want to stay back in the day. But it's the contemporaries out here right now that's been tracking this stuff the whole time with no hate in their heart. But now everybody catching on. Now everybody, oh man, you right. But nobody wants to take a step back and say, you know what? Dang, I didn't even look at it like this. You know what I'm saying? I don't see nobody saying, oh man, well dang, all right, well after all I do take credit for that Ryan fight. You know what I'm saying? But now he getting ready to get full credit because it's Devin now. I was saying beforehand, I said, man, some of these moves, because in the history books, again, I'm going to tell you, it's going to say that Shakur Stevenson became Devin Haney's mandatory and he dropped his belt. And the history books going to say that Frank Martin and Shakur Stevenson was in an agreement and Frank Martin pulled out. It's not going to be all this firing stuff. It's not going to be people taking out time, because people don't even do it now when they microwave their research. They regurgitate their research. They'll go listen to somebody and then go back and regurgitate something else. But nobody's doing it in real time. Why? Because we're in a microwave generation. Everybody wants it now. 877 cash now. And that's not how it works. You got to be documenting and looking at everything for the long haul. In the grand scheme of things, with everything considered. So I'm like, man, are we looking at everything through the right lens? The right perspective? You know what I'm saying? Do you only listen to something, or do you only believe it once it comes down? I'm not talking about like how people just wait and just cling to anything that the Zone drop, anything that ESPN drop, anything that, anything like that. I'm not talking about those. Those are going to be those because those are large networks, popular networks. But I'm talking about people that might not be as big as coming out saying these things. It's like, oh, you don't give them no credence. You don't give them no support. Why? Because your favorite didn't tell you first. Well, your favorite be listening to a lot of other people. I'm going to tell you that now. You know what I'm saying? Your favorites be listening and watching a whole lot of other people. Why? Because you think about it. If they online all day, every day, they don't have time to research the stuff. They don't have time to look into it. They microwave it. They got to go get it from somewhere else, and they microwave it. And they regurgitate it. Sometimes, depending on the politics behind it, it's going to dictate which stance they take. And that shouldn't be the case. Everything should be done on a case-by-case basis. If you get hurt, you and your partner get hurt at work, you don't want them to look at y'all together and be like, oh man, look at this guy, he's been late, this. It's like, no, you want them to pull you in the office and look at you and evaluate you and question you, and then look at them and then make the decision on what's going on and how, everybody gonna get paid or what's going on. That's what we need to do when it come down to this boxing. But it's real convenient because you like this one to just say, oh, he's a thug, he's this, he's that. It's like that. It can't be. We can't forget about the business. I remember when Floyd was talking, when Floyd came out and said, yeah, we doing everything in-house. And everybody like, oh my gosh, it's like, what has changed? It never made sense for cross-promotional unless the money made sense. But it's a lot of things, man. It's a lot of rules being changed. But the history books are going to show Shakur Stevenson became somebody's mandatory. That somebody dropped the belt, and that somebody was in negotiation with a fighter. They dropped out, and because they dropped out, it was next man up, and the next man up went in there, and they set a record because the next man up came in there and only landed 38 punches in that round. But Shakur Stevenson actually won that belt, making him a 3-division champion. That's what the history books are going to read. They're not going to be there listening to how you got cooked on this channel because of this fact and that fact. That's what the history books are going to read. Just like the history books are going to read that Ryan Garcia got stopped by Tank. He came back on a non-pay-per-view fight. He stopped his opponent, and then the history going. If this fight goes to fruition and Devin and Ryan get a hold of it, it's going to read that Devin fought Ryan 2 fights after Tank, and it would have been Barrios, which is another guy that Tank already fought, who neither one of them he gets the credit for. On that alone, we got to start really being like, ooh, do I really want to prove a point, or do I really want to get the fights? Because I'm thinking right now, like I was saying in that little introduction, I think that right now, we find so many ways to be divided when it comes down to boxing. We send so many mixed signals, and we get so salacious, and then one person get this topic, and then other people want to chime in on that same topic, and that becomes the focal point. The gossip, the I called you out. Now, I heard it on a way larger channel than mine. Earlier today, I was over there just peeping and seeing what's going on. Because even if I don't agree with your take, I'll go in there and listen. Sometimes I learn. Sometimes I'll be like, yeah, you know what? They got a good point. That's just me, though. I put out a video a long time ago with Rolly, when it was about to be Rolly and Devin, when they was getting ready to fight. I put out a video and it said you can learn a lot from a dummy. And I was talking about how really intelligent Rolly is, but he likes to play, but he was making a lot of sense in that build-up. And that fight never happened. So I can learn a lot from anybody. I learn from everybody. I learn from children, plants, nature, whatever. Online, I get information from everywhere. And I got to process, put it up to the microscope, put it under the microscope, on the scale, however you want, up to the ruler, however you want to see it. You got to consider all these things. But if we found more reasons to actually agree, more things that we actually agree upon, instead of things that we can bicker about, we could be united across channels. If everybody starts saying the same thing, the boxing gods would be like, hey, we're going to ordain this. And then the business suits would be like, oh, snap, the boxing gods are telling us that this is what we want. But we like the Tower of Babel, just scattered, sections, this and that. Like, that's what we are right now. You know, if you want to use that allegory. But I don't claim any of it. I just know some of the parables, some of the stories, some of the things I just been living. And that's how I look at it. But if we were to get in agreement with a lot more things, you know what I'm saying? I think our echoes and the things and the sentiments that we put out about boxing and the fights that we want, I think they'll manifest a little bit quicker. The divide and the scatter, they look at everything just like with the ice hockey Pitbull Cruz fight. I say all the time, people clamored and said and wasn't being real about the outcome of that fight and this, and they said it for so long. The suits was like, oh, they really think that was you really think he gave him a tough time? Okay, let's spin the block on that. And now everybody's mad, or they've been mad because of just the thought of the name. It's like, why when y'all clamored for it? You know, I'm just looking at, at this point in time, just like last year, I was going to do my oldies. You know what I'm saying? My up the years, I was going to do it, but it seemed like that lane is kind of saturated this year. And I still might do it. Still got a couple more days left. But I've been doing a lot of reflecting. And I've been saying, man, how can you channel the kind of audience or the kind of people that you want? You just got to keep, speaking to the things that you would want somebody to tell you if you would, trying to enhance your knowledge or be more responsible when it comes to boxing talk. Just keep putting out that kind of information. And yeah, they're not gonna get the thousands and thousands of views, but they're gonna touch, and they are actually changing. They're actually changing the thoughts. You know what I'm saying? It's like good boxing talk should be thought provoking. It shouldn't be triggering your soul. Thought provoking. It should provoke thought. You know what I'm saying? It should make you start being critical thinkers. You know what I'm saying? Because one of the things they've done to us as a people is they've made it cookie cutter to where you can take and receive this, or you can just take it and accept it. Oh man, that's right. That's all right and exact. Oh, that's where that. Oh, that's pure. And you're just gonna take that and run with it instead of you juicing your noodle, understanding the length, the breadth, the depth, the circumference, the capacity of a thing. Like they used to do back in the day where they could say less words and mean more things. That's why certain things that you come across and read, they be so simple yet so profound. Because we were critical thinkers. You know, so I think that critical thinking is a dying sport. I think critical thinking in the sport of boxing, as it relates to the conversations around boxing, are heavily linked together. They're Siamese twins. You know what I'm saying? And some people got the keys to the plane, and some people can, get, thousands of people on board, man. But are they taking you to a place where you really want to be? But most of them don't even look happy, man. Most of them look miserable, even though it's supposed to be the thing that they love and that they do every day. I don't see how. Because the way it's being painted, like, oh my gosh, here we go. Welcoming energy. When you don't even want that kind of energy. Most people be saying, I want the smoke, they don't even want it, because when somebody come in, I gotta stop you right there. It's like, no, man, some of us have sense. Some of you not gonna be able to pull the wool. No, you want to be stroked. You want your ego to be stroked. You know what I'm saying? You want to be told that you're right. You want to be told that, oh my goodness. You need that reassurance. Just like cougars, man, need a lot of reassurance. I had to remind them all the time, man, I really like you, man. I really want you. I really do. It's like, no, man, we men and women that talk boxing responsibly, man. And I think it's just a little challenging watching some of these people, man, especially some of the big people, man, some of the big dogs, man, on a lot of these boxing topics. It'd be hard pills to swallow, man, because earlier this year, and I don't say anything, because when you say something, then all of a sudden you're trolling. That's why I always say feed the trolls, which really don't mean have somebody in your comment. But even though that's a game too, you can hire a troll, you can have somebody come on and you can debate, because people like low-level energy. They're going to hang and scintillate and be right around it. Listen to you say the same thing every day over and over again. That's what they're going to do. But no, that's not really. Sometimes some of the people that's telling the truth, they get labeled as trolls. That's why I say feed the trolls, which really, in my language, in BodyWork language, that means tell the truth. And hit dogs holler. So a lot of times when you speak too much truth, man, and somebody you get a subliminal, you get this and you get that, it's like, but Jesus Louise, like, I was only telling the truth. And this is the last example I'm gonna give, man. But it's a hard example, man. It's gonna be a hard pill for a lot of y'all to swallow. But it was reminded that here after the day of reckoning or whatever, and that whole fiasco went, I actually heard somebody come out and say that D-Dub need Mark Breland again. And I think that would be the best thing for him. I'm like, but these same people rejoiced when he got cut. These same people waited like a whole year. Like, it was a year after that whole cut and that messy fiasco happened. It was a year later, people were doing videos rejoicing that it had been a year after that whole fiasco with Fury that Mark Breland was still out of a job. And I said, man, you can't be pro anything. You can't be pro boxing. Only to come full circle a couple years later now, saying that that's the best thing he needed. He needed that disciplinarian. He needed that person. Oh, you don't got to like your coach. You don't got to like your trainer. We do that all the time. When it's a fighter you don't like, oh, man, his coach is trash. When it's a fighter you like, it's like, man, he good, man. His coach just wasn't telling him. It's like, no, man. Sometimes it's the fighter, sometimes it's the coach. But guess what? At the end of the day, they should all stand as a team. Like when that Raul Venezuela, that when that first fight, after when he fought De Los Santos, when Jose Benavidez Sr. started talking, he just was saying, oh man, it was really Raul. He didn't train and he was distracted. And you know, Raul said, yeah, he could have been more focused in this, but they should have fell on the sword as a team. Because even though two individuals get in the ring, it's a whole team around. So now you can pick somebody in the team. You can say, oh, man, I don't like Coach Kenny because he blah, blah, blah. So you could just pick on him and point him out and just put everything that he say on blast. But they're all a team with different roles. You know what I'm saying? It's not just when the fighter you like win. It's like, oh, man, he got the best trainer. Where like, no, maybe the matchup wasn't. Let's be real about it. Because if he was subpar when this fighter fought him, and he got to be subpar. Nothing's changed. Like, now why? Because that's the fighter that you like that's going up against him now. It's still a good fight. Don't get me wrong. But I would love to hear more of that online, man. And I know that's what my channel catered to, man. We talk about the X's and O's. We use CompuBox. We use stats and statistics. For some of the people that have some of the biggest things going on in boxing, you have to be obsessed with the numbers. The numbers mean everything. The numbers is what, oh man, where we at this point? How many what's our punch output? What's this? It's like, no, that can't be discounted just because you don't like the fighter, you didn't like the commentary, you didn't like, oh man, you know what that is? Just a man clicking a button. It's human error. They could be off, but a pattern is after 3 or 4 fights or 10 fights or 20-something fights, that little man clicking it might be a little error. Just like there's a certain amount of impurity that could be in your chocolate that you eat, but you don't care. As long as it's under the threshold and you don't get sick. It could be a couple inherent clicks or maybe not a click when this happened, but over a course of time, the data is good. Don't weaponize the fact that you want to be opinion-based for those of us that want to be fact-based. And even though you can have all the numbers down to a science and know everything, stuff happens in boxing, in that ring. It could look like this person was scored by a landslide and the upset happens. That can happen. But you got to ask yourself this. And this is probably like a checkmate kind of question. This is how you really gauge whether or not the fighter that your fighter is fighting. If your mother or your father were to sit you down and say, hey, if fighter B beat fighter A, would that be considered an upset? If they can look you right in your eyeballs, if you can look your parents right in your eyeballs and say, no, that wouldn't be an upset. Okay, cool. If you say every time when you go down and you say, yeah, that'll be an upset, or yeah, that'll be an upset, that's your answer. A lot of these things can fix themselves. You know, I'm doing some reflecting, man. I still might do my of the year. I have a champion of the year, a comeback fighter of the year. I have a fighter of the year, a knockout of the year. I'm still teeter-tottering on the coaches of the year. But I'm working on these things. You know, I'm trying not to listen to everybody who's doing their of the years, their oldies, you know what I'm saying? So that I'm not influenced. I want to go through my notepad. I want to look at all my videos I did this year and my recaps. And I want to come up with something if I get around to it. If I don't, it might be a goodie. It might be a treat for the next year. I don't know. I just want to put some fresh water back in the sport of boxing. You know what I'm saying? I love this sport. I got love for many fighters, man. I'm not a boxing monogamous channel. I don't have to like just one. But I'm going to keep it a buck on all of them. I just might be a little bit more reasonable. I might point out some things that you might not be thinking about. Or if I can poke holes about something that you're saying on some twisty, faulty logic where you was, the other day you was riding on this, and today you ride on that, I'm the one that's going to call that out. You know what I'm saying? And, salute to all the OGs out here. Salute to everybody that's really pushing the sport forward, man. There's a lot of good channels, man, that feed a lot of boxing fans every day. You know what I'm saying? I might not say, you're doing a good job you know what I'm saying, every day, or I might not chime in and salute, but I'm looking, I'm watching, I'm learning, and I appreciate it all. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate those who tune in to me as well. You know what I'm saying? I want us to see these good fights, man. But I would like the conversation to be more responsible, so we can really start taking boxing and using our voices to actually lean more towards getting what we want. Now, I don't think that's too hard to ask. You know what I'm saying? But that's all I really had, man. I thought maybe somebody might want to get something off their chest, or have a bone to pick, or have something. You know what I'm saying? Because you know, when I called myself B-side shorty, you know what I'm saying? I said, I'm B-side shorty. It's all these A-sides out here. Send the contract. I ain't getting no answer. I was looking like an ashtray. You know what I'm saying? For weeks, months, begging for it. I'm not gonna mute you when you get over here. I'm not gonna overtalk you and yell at you. I'm gonna ask you some simple questions. You can ask me some simple questions. You know what I'm saying? We get down to the nitty gritty. Not gonna stroke your ego, and I don't want mine stroked either. You know what I'm saying? But I just say I'll start making myself available more. I want to go live more. It's just, man, as a fan, I'm a content creator and a fan. You know what I'm saying? I'm a fan of boxing too. And sometimes it get real hard, man. It get real hard to talk boxing, man. Because I'm like, sometimes I find myself listening to stuff and I'm like, what is the point? What are y'all arguing about? What are y'all talking about? Who we shaming now? Who we pulling and tearing down now? Is that gonna get us closer to a fight? Anyways, thanks for tuning in here at BodyWork Boxing, where we don't take things for face value. We do that body.